I'm often very happy to say I have tons of lessons learned. Okay, this is what not to do. This is what not to do. This is what not
Welcome to the party.
to
So, welcome to this week's episode of Leadership Soundbites with two friends of mine that I used to work with. And so, one of them is Christopher Henry. Christopher is now and has been for, it's been 3 years, 4 years.
It's been 3 years now.
3 years. Way too long that we've been in a physical room together. Senior VP of, and I'm going to read this because I freaking blew it last time when you were in, Bath and Body Works, Senior VP of Global Talent Management. So basically things people. Just the people.
All things
part.
people.
Yeah.
People, acquisition, development, change, all that jazz.
The people stuff. Yeah, the people stuff, the human side of the business.
Mm-hmm.
So, welcome, Christopher. And we all used to work together at Sutter Health, and Brian Storts. And Brian, the longest title known to man. So former of the longest title, Director of Organizational Effectiveness and Change Management at Sutter Health. And so it's just freaking awesome, guys, to be in the room with you again. And I know we talked about, to kick off the discussion, a lot of it is around leadership and attributes of leadership. But it started off around this whole idea of this statement, Brian, that you made that I wrote down, and I'm going to just call it a quote, is that people are not their titles. And there's a lot of places we can go with that. And so I think that's a great place to start. And so, Brian, I'm going to go to you first. And just to kind of unpack what's on your mind about that, and we'll just kind of have a conversation around the three of us. So welcome.
Thank you. So last night I was actually in a little OD group over at a restaurant down the street from us. And I was talking with somebody who's been in coaching and consulting since 1985. And so I was actually bowing down when he told me how long he has been in that practice, and it is well known in the circuit in the Northern California area. And he was we got talking about how do you ask the right questions in the moment. And of course, he was humble. He's done this a few times, and we both came to the same thing. It's muscle memory, and the muscle memory to ask the right questions. And of course, you can have all these fun frameworks. But the other thing that came to mind when we were talking about that is to be able to improv. And so that's another thing that comes to mind. And I know we're talking about people are not their title, but I want to maybe start with that improv piece and that muscle memory that you build. So when talking to others, to not talk and think about who am I talking to? What is their title? How much can they handle based on what I know of them? Are they a nurse? Are they a technologist? Are they a vice president? And then I'm going to adjust and speak to them at their title. Now, there's a certain amount that goes with that, but some of that comes with that muscle memory and that improv that goes with it. And I can come back to that later if it happens during our time here, just some thoughts about improv and what that means. But people can handle more information than we might think. And so I remember sitting down with a group that we were bringing into our healthcare system. And there was a lot of debate in small circles before we got to that room. Can they handle this? No, let's sanitize this. Well, so we'll cut the 3 paragraphs down to 3 sentences. And then we get to the room and they're saying, where's the rest? Where's the beef? So there was no beef.
The old Wendy's commercial, right? It's just, we skinnied it up.
So they want the plain language. We want the plain language. We want clarity. We want the respect. In that communication that transcends the title, and to be able to start the dialogue from there. So that's something that really stood out to me as we were doing that integration with that group.
It's interesting you say that. Is that what comes to mind for me is that we can overthink it so much, right? And to your point, scale it back to all that stuff and minimize it. But the reality of it is we can also start with what you're talking about, the facts, and people they'll ask questions. If they don't understand and need clarity and need more follow-up, they can ask questions. But to your point, if we don't provide it that way, they're going to see through some of the stuff, the overthinking, the overprocessing, and go, they think we're idiots? I mean, seriously, do they think we're idiots? And then you've got a completely different thing that you're dealing with.
And
Yeah.
then they're smiling in the room. And
Yeah.
as soon as you leave the room in the hallway, then it all comes out anyway,
Yeah.
like what they
Yeah.
really thought.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's a good call out. The other thing I wanted to say, and Christopher, I do want to hear from you, but the other thing was muscle memory. Because it is about practice and building habits and building muscle around, because I think about when I coach people around open-ended questions. And it takes practice. It's not something that's intuitive for most of us, because most of us are going to put a question mark on the end of a statement that we want people to do and call it a question. So it's that practice of going, can I stay in this curious space? And I'm curious not to hear all the information or to the point that I can answer the question myself or solve it, but I'm curious about the other person's thinking. And when we step into that, which requires that muscle memory that you're talking about, practice, because it's, and then after a while it is intuitive, it's easy, you don't have to think about it. It's like driving a stick shift car. In the beginning, every single thing you've got to think about. And after a while, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm shifting gears and I'm not thinking about it. And I'm in San Francisco and I'm not freaking out when I go to the stop sign at the top of the hill, all that stuff. So yeah. I agree with you. Christopher, what's on your brain?
I think with regards to the topic at hand, people are not their
You don't want to talk
title.
about the other stuff that's on your brain
All
right
the other stuff. There's so much to talk about, but I think the piece that I think I've been doing a lot of work in, particularly in our organization, as part of our culture initiative, has been the point of storytelling, and how important storytelling is, again, regardless of your title.
now?
That's the thing that grabs and pulls people in. And so, as Brian was speaking to earlier, the amount of data that people are able to take in, and digest, often if it's wrapped in a nice story, which
Mm-hmm.
is universally applicable,
Mm-hmm.
they can take in so much more.
I,
I think,
I,
yeah, that art of the storytelling, there's just is agnostic when it comes to levels, and I think people sort of react the same way regardless of where they sit in the
I
organization.
think about the holidays and the holidays coming up. When you talk about storytelling, right? All the traditions,
Mhm.
all the stuff handed down, and it doesn't matter what your title is. When you go around family, when you go into the holidays, there's no title.
There's no title.
You're
No
just part of
title.
the family. You're part of the tribe. You're part of the community,
Mhm.
and you're absolutely right because you're responding to the simplest things. The picture of like my grandson or Santa Claus or whatever, or the memories of the traditions that you have, and that's not associated with title. And so with the
No.
stories is how we connect to heart, and that's how we engage with people to where they really start listening. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I think it's, what you're describing is taking it even deeper, because the method to get to heart may be the story, but as you talk about the holidays, there are other methods to get there
Mm-hmm.
as well. And so when you spoke to that, it made me recall just recently. So we have a new team that's been formed this year in
Mm-hmm.
2024 as a response to our employee engagement survey. We had several years of individuals saying, hey, we were out during the lockdown, now we're back,
Mm-hmm.
and the workplace has just kind of lost that spark. It's
Mm-hmm.
not as engaging, not as fun. So we
Mm-hmm.
formed an engagement team. And so one of the things that they took on was looking at traditional holidays and re-engaging employees, to
Oh.
feel good about coming back in the office. And one of which, again, this people are not their title. We did a Halloween
Yep.
festival in office, where everyone from C-suite leaders to hourly employees brought their children in, and people
Oh.
decorated their offices. And so it was, again, that sort of getting to the heart. When you see the babies, you don't care if it's a VP's baby,
No.
if it's a security guard's baby, we're all excited about the baby. And so those are the sort of things that I think allow or provide access to getting to the heart and sort of creating this humanity, creating this one team sort of feel that not only has people enjoying being back in the office, but being able to connect
Mhm.
regardless of level.
Yeah. Brian, I know you've got a thought on that. You're like, I can comment on that. I can see you.
No, I was just enjoying this, but there's so much there. And, Christopher talking about the storytelling and the spark. I love that word spark because we're talking about, I think about Duarte and Sparkline, and I love Duarte's Sparkline and telling stories, and what's the new bliss, and what's the current reality, and what's the new bliss, and no matter what the topic is, making it relatable. I'm just kind of bringing back a few things that I caught from what Christopher was saying, and we're talking here about leadership sound bites, and there's storytelling in a sound bite to make it memorable, because that moment in the story that is personal and memorable can bring everything else in that we want them to take away for the engagement, for the leadership, for the whatever it is that creates that connection and that end game that we're looking for.
You guys, I go back to partners in leadership and the
Mhm.
results pyramid. And that's what comes to mind for me. And Christopher, I think about the feedback that you're getting as we came back in the office. But if you think about it, and I'll explain it for people who don't know, because all of us, we're bobbleheading. We're like, yeah, I understand what that is. And people are like, well, you're the results pyramid. What? So it's the triangle, right? And
Mhm.
I describe it from the top. So the top of the triangle, it's in 4 sections, are the results or the outcomes we currently get. That we get those results and outcomes because of actions that we take the next level down. And we take those actions because of beliefs that we hold the next level down. And we hold those beliefs because of experiences that we've had. So I think back to Christopher, your comment around there was this engagement and this just routine and expectation before with people in the office because we were all it's like we in Halloween I remember driving to work in the finance department of all places, okay, as one of the members of KISS, makeup on my face, the
Oh, wow.
hair, the whole bit, because I was one of 4 people on my team that we had chosen KISS. And so I got some looks that morning as I'm driving into work, right? But that was an experience. And so I had beliefs about work and the community. Well, what happened? Well, it got disrupted. And
Uh-huh.
so we had those experiences replaced, or if anything, the memories may be removed, and
Mhm.
so it's like we're in a position now to create new ones because people now have beliefs that it's not fun. We're going back to brick and mortar and there's no reason for it. And now we've got this crazy commute, nothing's different because we've had so much time not being connected with people.
Yes, yes, yes. So we've proactively started to look at ways, to your point, to recreate those experiences that
Mm-hmm.
sort of jog those memories
Mm-hmm.
of, that it used to be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so it can be again.
Well, Christmas time, we'd have everybody would bring a gift who wanted to participate, and
Mhm.
you'd have the whole steal the gift game, how you pick numbers and you pick number 1, you go get a wrap gift, and then people are stealing the gifts from other people. And when you have there were like 35 people that were
Yes.
playing this game. I mean, it was a time commitment, I'm going to tell you. But it's one of those things that it was exciting and an otherwise pretty uneventful job. I mean,
Uh-huh.
it's like people didn't die at month-end close. know? People didn't have huge epiphanies. I mean, it was a pretty, routine profession. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think those are all pretty cool ways to take down that formality and have people connect as humans, which I
Yeah.
think really fortifies the team. Now my mind is just sort of racing with some of the other activities that we do where the principal objective really is to have people at multiple levels within the organization share the same experience. So a big holiday thing that we do as well is volunteering, and it's like
Oh,
part of our jobs.
yeah,
You don't get out of it.
yeah.
I came into the organization thinking I would just write a check. They're like, no, you gotta go on out
You're
here. So
coming. You're coming.
last Friday, it was we volunteered at Toys for Tots and just sort of,
Oh,
making the bags, bringing families in, helping them to shop. And again, it was, all layers. The other, being a retailer, we have doing our big candle day,
yeah.
in preparation for Christmas. Our C-suite on down, people in the executive offices, corporate offices, and so forth, all go into stores, and we support the people in the stores, whether it's bagging, whether it's in the back getting out supplies and so forth, but all to create that team experience
Hmm.
where the titles don't matter.
Yeah. No, I freaking love it. I love it. Brian, what's on your mind? Because I know you do. I mean, you are change management, you are organizational development, organizational efficiency, effectiveness, whatever the OE part of it is, basically people. How do you engage leaders to shift into that thinking, or what comes to mind for you around that whole topic?
Well, first off, you can add all those words. I'll just keep adding them onto the long title here, all the big words there.
We're just gonna dump them on Brian. Oh, he does everything with people.
So yeah, I just want to maybe go back before I go forward. I just was hearing so many things about connection here again, and common, connection and common, two C's there. And Christopher talking about you're creating a common experience, and common is so important at all levels and across. It brings everybody together. And so, what better than Toys for Tots? But whatever it is, those
Yeah.
common experiences that bond everybody, and that is an aspect of leadership, and it's an aspect of team, and it's an aspect of connection and enrichment and relationship, and that is just so powerful as well. I just want to maybe go back on this a minute more before I guess we go forward a little bit.
You go wherever you want, sir. Wherever
Engaging
you
leaders,
want. It's all good.
but I also go back to what you said. You brought up that little triangle thing that some of us.
Yes, I did bring that up. I bring it up a
So,
lot.
so it came up actually in a conversation I was having with somebody this morning, and I met with two different people today. One locally in person, and another one over the phone. A dear colleague from the industry over at Procter and Gamble out on the other side of the country, not too far from Christopher's neck of the woods in Ohio, and we're talking about how sometimes it's difficult. You fall out of the habits of connecting with people, staying connected. And we think about it in this season, and then we forget about it for another 12 months. And I was just, we got talking in these two different conversations, and these folks don't know each other, about, what do you do to get back into those habits? And it's like, okay, so the question becomes, what are the experiences we want to create for the others, but also what are the experiences? It's okay to ask the question, what are the experiences I want to create for myself to, to step up? And it's another way of looking at that bottom tier of that pyramid. And then, what am I going to do to create those experiences, and what gets me excited about it so that I can get energized and stay with it? And so rebuilding those habits. And so that was something that came out, and then rebuilding that muscle memory, kind of going back again. So I guess when you ask the question, I'll just go back to, how do I engage leaders? I'm often very happy to say I have tons of lessons learned. Okay, this is what not to do. This is what not to do. This is what.
Welcome to the party.
I guess, one of the things that people know of me is that I never put up a layer of pretense. I'm 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 I'd like to think I'm very humble and very open, and I can be self-deprecating as well along the way, and that's my style. I don't mind the Rodney Dangerfield style. For those who remember that old comedian, I'm not as funny as him, but I do like to do that because it's disarming. I like to be disarming. I like to come in with a calm when I'm engaging leaders. And we need to know the styles. Do they want finances? Do they want results? Do they want, connection? Do they want, so you have to nuance it to what's the moment and what's their style, of course, but I do like to seek to understand. And I was also talking with somebody about curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
And Sutter just brought in curiosity as one of the values in 2024, and how powerful is that?
Wow.
Asking the right questions, listening with curiosity, where have the curiosity in talking with the leader to listen to what they're saying and be curious about what's going to come next and how do I interact with them, to be very attentive. So that's one of the things that I like to do that generally works pretty well. And also another thing I like to do when the leader is willing to disarm themselves as well is to acknowledge that, hey, we are all people. That leader is a person. So if I engage a leader, I'm not engaging the title. So it's, people are not their titles. They have a title, but acknowledging that that is a human being I'm talking to. And so how can I see that human side and that human connection with them with respect and with focus?
Yeah.
Little
Well, I totally agree. I mean, the respect, that part of it, because you're respecting the person as a human, regardless of, you may have thoughts about who they are, what they are, title and all that stuff. And it's interesting because I do a lot of work with Coach Hub. So they're the democratized coaching. So they're a digital coaching platform. I get access to people that I'm coaching at global organizations, right? At all levels of leadership, leaders that are individual contributor leaders and leaders that are, C-suite reporting to them leaders. And what I've come to realize, and when I share with people, and predominantly the people that are individual contributors that think that they have so much to learn and that I could never be at this level. I said, one thing I've come to realize is that to your point, Brian, we're all human. And so as a human, we come up against challenges, and we're going to have imposter syndrome or fears about whatever, or man, I need a thought partner because I really don't have an answer to this one. And yes, the problems and the situations at the higher level of leadership are going to be more complex. But the reality of it is you're still faced with stuff. So, at every level that you move up, the stuff where you're stepping into doesn't mean that you've got this huge gap. It's your growth opportunity. And it's that reframing that's so important so that people don't think I've got this deficit. No, you have a growth opportunity because you're moving forward and stepping into something that's challenging you, which is what you should expect. But it's at every single level of leadership. They all have the same stuff.
Yeah. Could I raise my Zoom hand for a moment?
Oh, yes, please. That looked like your real one, by the way.
Yeah. No, just another aspect. So I'll just kind of shift a little bit on curiosity before we move off. Otherwise, I'm going to lose the thought. But
No, I don't want you to lose your thought.
so there was a time not too long ago
Terrible.
when I reported to Christopher, and he was a wonderful leader. And one of the things we all knew about Christopher was sometimes he had the answer, he had the way, but instead he would ask us, "What do you think?" He let the group talk, and that's a powerful attribute of leadership. So you're asking, how do I engage leaders, but also how do leaders engage their team?
Yeah.
And that's a powerful aspect of curiosity also, because asking the group to come up with that gets that
Yeah.
that sense of value, of contribution, and so on. I had a leader way back early in my career who used to, I don't know why he called me Brian Bo, but that's what he called me. Brian Bo, what do you think? And he always had the answer, but he would say, Brian Bo, what do you think? And I just ate right into it. I had no idea what he was doing. And then I'd blah, 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 blah. And then 90% of the time I'd come to what he wanted anyway. The other 10% of the time when I didn't come to what Christopher wanted, he would bring in that 10%. But otherwise that 90% would come in.
But
So,
I will say, for the leaders that will be listening to this that think that they have the answer, often you guys made it a much better thing than I had originally had as a thought in my mind.
Well, and it takes the pressure off. It's like
Mm-hmm.
if leaders come in, I had one leader I was coaching that he made the comment essentially, well, as a leader, you have to have all the answers. I'm like, so who believes that? Who's telling you that? Is that you, or is that, other people around? He goes, well, a little bit of everyone. I said, so drop that at the curb. That is
Mhm.
such an unrealistic expectation. There's not a single human on the planet that can have all the answers. So it's like when you set yourself up for that, number one, you're going to be working ridiculous hours. You've got all this stress put on yourself. And who on your team says, pick me for that role? No one. No
No
one.
one.
So you talk about succession planning, just made an impossible task. So yeah, I think the Christopher story, Brian, when you said it, I went back, Christopher, because I didn't report directly to you. I reported to someone else who reported to you. And I remember when you first started with Sutter Health, you were gonna go to Gemba. You were gonna go out and visit and see what's going on. I remember going up to you after you made this announcement, like in a town hall kind of thing to your part of the organization. And I said, so who's your coach? And you're like, I don't have a coach. And so it was one of those things is how do we go with intention, right? What are you
Mhm.
looking for? How are you going to show up? What's that going to be? And I so appreciated you. And I was, I reported to someone who reported to you. You're like, you can be my coach. So, yes, I was a coach. I did process improvement, taught all that stuff, but I appreciated your openness and willingness to go to your point when we started out. Titles don't matter.
They don't matter. And there's always something to learn, and you
Hmm.
don't have all of the answers. So you have to, be able to accept and honor the knowledge that others have that they're
Hmm.
willing to share with you.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Totally agree. You two are awesome. I've missed chatting with you like this. And I want to do it again at some point. So we'll have to figure out what that looks like across time zones and work schedules and everything else. Thank you for this topic. So I'm curious as we walk away, what are one or two things around this topic that we chat about that you want people to walk away with? We'll start with Christopher.
Well, I think for me, this is a good refresh. So I will walk away with it, and I hope others do as well. But it's really making yourself, open
Mm-hmm.
and approachable. Make people see you and not see the title.
Mm,
And I think that it brings a lot of positivity for
mm-hmm.
both individuals.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. Brian, how about you?
And I guess I'll finish where we most recently were with that curiosity and learning from others. And there's a quote from Schein on humble leadership. I think something to the effect of leading with humility requires embracing a mindset of learner. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so learning from others. Did a I put a comment, I dropped a comment somewhere, and Tim Creasy, who is the Chief Innovation Officer at ProSci, commented on it on LinkedIn. He said, or maybe he just emailed me, I think, and he said, Ancora imparo, which is Italian for, and yet I'm still learning. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
that quote that he often uses. And so as leaders and as people and as teams, to have the curiosity to still be learning and from each other. And we're better
Mm-hmm.
for it.
I love that. It's so funny that quote. Margie Hagney is one of my mentors, and so she's the one that taught us A3 thinking, and Edgar Schein was one of the ones she learned from John Shook, who came into Ford when she worked at Ford and taught Toyota management system principles, so lean management system to her and the organization. But there was a Rocco and I were people that she developed around A3 thinking, and she gave us a necklace with that quote on it, with that saying on it, just because it is. Don't ever forget that you're stepping in it with a learner's mind always, and that's why I tell people, and we can call it growth mindset, whatever you want to do. Um, but it's one of those things. Don't think you're too old for it. And I'll tell people I'm going to be learning and growing until I'm 6 feet under or an urn on someone's mantle. I mean, it's just how it is. So it's like, don't get to the point where you think, well, I know it all. No, you couldn't possibly. And that next thing that you learn, that may be a nugget that you can pass on to somebody else that shifts their thinking about something. So yeah. have to do this again, guys. So
This has been a blast. Thank
Oh,
you.
this is so fun.
yes,
Thank
yes.
you.
So I appreciate the time. This has been Leadership Soundbites with Christopher and Brian and Michele. Until next time, please like, share, subscribe. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Happy, whatever you want. And until next time, thank you.